What's up, Wargamers? Welcome back to World of Wargaming. I'm Isaiah, and today, once again, I invite you to grab a snack, a beverage, a comfy place to sit, and let me talk at you for a minute. Today, I seek to talk to you not about a new game, but about an older game that has kind of recently finally gotten its completed final set of rules. Today I want to talk to you about Perilous Tales by Mike Hutchison, also the author of the beloved Gaslands. Now, as I said, Perilous Tales is not a new game. It was originally released back in 2020 during the COVID pandemic to give people something to do since they couldn't go to their shops and play with other people's. And it was very good as a beta rule set, but there are some things in this finished rule set that I am very, very excited to have a go at. And since this is the first Friday, or will be by the time this goes public, of Spooky Month, it seemed like an apt opportunity to do so. Before we get into that, though, allow me to just shill for myself for just a second. If you enjoy the content, or my lovely face or beautiful beard, or whatever reason you watch for, please consider smashing buttons, leaving comments, checking out the links if you'd like to come over to Patreon and help keep the channel rolling. All of it's appreciated just from the very, very bottom of my heart, and all of it helps get these games that I play out in front of more eyes and more people. That being said, let's get into the good. So, Perilous Tales is a completely agnostic horror suspense game that is very much in the realm of pulp. I've not played an enormous number of horror-themed war games, but of the ones that I have played, none of them have given me more anxiety than Perilous Tales, and I firmly believe that level of dread and twitchiness will continue into the proper edition. So to play the game, you don't need a lot of space. That's another thing that I love about it. It plays on a 2x2 board. You do need a fair number of D10s, especially as the longer the game takes, the more dice you will need. You need tokens and cards. Those are available for free from PlanetSmasherGames.com. You can download the PDF and print them and slip them into a sleeve in front of a magic card, or if you're extra fancy, you can print them on some nice card stock. They're not absolutely necessary. I think you can randomize off the tables in the books and write it down, but it is nice to have that reference right on the table in front of you. So I highly recommend downloading those free pieces of game aid and printing them out. My dogs are going crazy. Sorry. You'll also need some threat markers, which are roughly a 30mm flat marker. So if you got some extra bases laying around, that can work absolutely perfectly. The game is played in inches, and there are a couple of conventions that you need to be aware of that I think might be a little bit different than the beta rules. Inside X, it has to be wholly within that distance, and I don't think that was the case in the beta. If it wasn't, then I may have been playing wrong the entire time. As anyone who's watched me play games knows that I will make a mistake. I try to correct myself, but it happens. And then opposed to that, X away means that it needs to be fully outside of that range. Another key fundamental of the game is the horror check, which is called upon by different situations in the game. When you do that, you're making a skill check, which is a number of D10 equal to your skill. And if you get no successes, you're just going to walk away, run away from the closest villain. That could potentially take you off the edge of the board and out of the scenario. There's also despair. So if one of your models is murdered within 8 inches in line of sight of your other models, they're going to potentially freak out and also run away. There are 2 main types of villains in the game. The Master, who's the big bad, that's going to be your Frankensteins, your Vampire Counts, your Eldritch Horrors, and then they have their minions, the smaller, less important villains that help them out. All of those things are listed, and as always, if you don't have a model, it's agnostic. Substitute whatever you'd please. Heroes are the cast, the models that will be combating these foul abominations. And they have 3 stats: wounds, skill, and action points. Your leader has 12 wounds, 4 skill, 3 action points. Your teammates have 8 wounds, 2 skill, let me get that in frame, and 2 action points. Action points are the number of things that you can do in a turn. You spend an action point, you get to do a thing. Some abilities do require 2 action points, so be aware of that, because I played this for a long time wrong, because I did not RTFB closely enough and was not paying the amount that I was supposed to be paying to do certain things. So make sure you keep an eye on that. It's kind of important, I guess. The game can be played solo or cooperatively, and the number of things that you get to control varies depending on how many. So in a solo game, you get your leader and 4 teammates. In a 2-player co-op game, you get a leader and 1 teammate. In a 3-player, everybody gets 2 teammates, and in a 4-player, everybody takes a leader. So there's a pretty significant switch there between 3 and 4. Because if you're only going to control one guy, make it a cool one, right? Then we come into the character creation or the party creation section. Not going to talk about that right now. I don't think it's changed that much since the first edition. I'll have to look back through the playlist and see if I originally did a party creation video for it. But if not, I will do another one. But I'm almost certainly going to be playing the same Division 0 team that I played for the first one, because of the big addition to the finished rule set that the original rule set was hugely lacking. One of the only things I think that it was really, really lacking in. But we're not ready to talk about that yet, so we'll get to it in a few minutes. Let's talk about those skill checks we mentioned. Now, one of the things that I think is incredibly unique about Perilous Tales, both in the original beta and the finished rule set, is the way that your target numbers are determined. So you're rolling d10s for pretty much for everything, but equivalent to your skill value. You also roll an extra d10, preferably of a different color. If you don't have different colors, that's okay. Just roll your difficulty dice first and then your skill dice. But you roll a separate d10 to determine the difficulty of the check. So it could be on a 2. It could also be on a 9. And then however many you have that are equal to or higher than that difficulty rating dice are successes. During a skill check, a 10 on any of your dice is a critical, which counts as 2 successes, and a 1 is a fumble, which can never be made into a success. Always going to be a fail if it's a natural 1. If your difficulty dice happens to roll a 10, that is a misfortune, and the test is just an automatic failure. Nothing you can do for it. Some abilities or things will have a minimum difficulty, which means no matter what you roll on the dice, so if, let's say I rolled a 2, but the minimum difficulty is 4, that 2 would become a 4, and that's your set minimum difficulty. Advantage and disadvantage, which can be the result of various things in the game, does not affect your skill dice pool, it affects the difficulty dice. So if you have advantage, you would roll 2 dice and take the lowest. If you have disadvantage, you would roll 2 dice and take the highest for the difficulty. The game does feature support, which is a thing that I love to see in these kinds of solo and cooperative games, because it incentivizes, or it makes your movement actions be a little bit more important as far as your positioning goes. So there's attack support, which is where if you have more friendlies than enemies, the attacker will gain advantage. You can also have support for non-attack actions. So like if you're trying to kick down a door or investigate something, you can get your friends to help. If they're within an inch of you, then you get advantage on the roll. We then come into our attack actions, and any action that says attack in it is an attack action. That's going to be your shooting, your punching, your kicking, all that jazz. You make your skill check. A lot of those will have a minimum difficulty. I think shoot has maybe like a minimum difficulty of 4 or 5, or at least it did. I'm not sure about in this book. I'll look when I get to it. And then each success is 1 point of damage. If the target has cover, then the attack roll has disadvantage. If a model is within 1 inch of an enemy and not knocked down, then they are engaged. If a model is knocked down, then you need to lay it down prone on its side, and it can perform no other actions except to stand up. However, another model may use the help up action to pick them up with one of their actions so that they can then maybe do something more important on their activation. And then there's pushback. Most likely, coming from an attack of some sort. So if you're just moved back X number of inches, whatever the ability or the thing that has pushback says. Pretty straightforward. There are 5 main types of terrain. There's open, which is no effect, difficult, which is move at half speed, impassable, which prevents movement, obscuring, which does not block line of sight but does grant cover, and blocking, which blocks line of sight into or across the area. Concerning line of sight, friendly models are open, shoot through or move through them. Enemy models are blocking and impassable, so can't see through them, can't move through them. Which, as it should be, you shouldn't be able to just walk through a bad guy. If a villain comes into contact with the edge of the board, they just stop. But if a hero comes into the contact with the edge of the board, they are out of there. They're heading home, running scurred. The round is split into 3 phases. The hero phase, which is where your guys are going to do all their things. The threat check, which is where you roll a number of D10s for a threat check, and then you consult a table that will tell you what happened. At the beginning of the game, the villains and those things are going to be concealed with just markers that are flipped over, and each of those markers is assigned a number, and then those markers can move independently during certain times depending on how you roll on the threat table. So you could have all these things coming at you, but you don't know what any of them actually are. And that, for me, is what creates the amazing tension and anxiety in this game, is being able to see these things coming, but not knowing what they are or what they're going to do when they get to me. I want to say they flip over if you end your move within, I think, 6 inches. That was, again, beta, so we'll double check when we get to this area. The game will end if any of the following are true. The end game condition is met, the party are dead or have left the board, or the current threat level is 10. You then have a table for determining your final rank, kind of like at the end of like a Devil May Cry mission where you have F through A rankings, no S tier. A is truly heroic performance, which means you have a score of 10 plus. Score is determined between a combination of secondary objectives, monster kills, master kills, and scenario objectives, maybe? But you can rank an A through an F depending on how many of those points you accumulate during the game. Another thing that this game includes that I absolutely love is called the Last Ditch, which is once per game, you can re-roll 1 skill check or attack made by a hero. And I like it when games give you not an unlimited number of re-rolls, because that gets sketchy quick, but just knowing that you got 1 in the pocket just in case you need something to happen and it goes really sideways, you got a little something to potentially help you out there, and I just hope to the dice gods that it doesn't make the situation worse. Actions are divided into 3 categories, basic, leader only, and specialist. Most of your basic actions are going to cost 1. Your leader actions are all 1. Your specialist actions are 2. That's going to be things like dynamite, spot something that's hidden, which allows you to peek at a threat marker, and first aid. First aid is the one that I messed up during my original playthroughs of the game because I did not pay attention to that cost. And I was right about threat markers. They will flip when they themselves move to within 6 inches, or when a heroic activation ends within 6 inches of one of them. And they're all numbered. If they reveal a master or a villain, you place that master or villain as close as you can to the one that revealed it while still touching the marker. We also have potential perils. Now, this, I think, is different than the beta. I want to say in the beta, you just kind of randomly selected a few of your perils, and then you had them where you could potentially draw them. This uses shuffle. You shuffle all the cards of one suit into a deck from just standard playing cards, like all your spades, all your diamonds, whatever. And then if you reveal a marker number that indicates a peril, usually the 6 through 8, you flip a card from the peril deck and then read the text. So you could potentially have any of the perils instead of just 3 of them, I think, were what you could potentially get in the beta version. When a threat marker is revealed, somebody has to be the revealer. Now, if it was revealed as the result of a heroic action in within 6, then it's that guy who stopped his movement there. If it's through a game effect, then it's whoever is closest to that threat marker when it reveals. When a villain is spawned during the hero phase, as a result of revealing a hero marker, so if you're not paying attention and you end up within 6 during the hero phase, an ambush will occur. When a model ambushes, you spawn your villain or your minion like you normally would, then you immediately end the hero phase and make a threat check. So if you're not paying attention or if something happens and your first model ends up revealing a marker, your turn's over. Time to put some baddies on the table and go to work. However, that ambushing villain does not immediately attack. You still need to go through the appropriate steps of the villain phase. The threat level of the game starts at 1, and it can go up +1 from revealing a master, -2 for killing a master, and then it can go up along, depending on what you roll when you roll your threat checks. And each time you roll one of these, unless you get very, very, very lucky, that you're going to be rolling more dice every time. So the game, it creates an internal clock in the game, and I just enjoy it so much, which I've already said, and I'm probably going to say it a few more times. I like it a lot. When it is finally time to start activating bad guys, you always activate the ones that are closest to the hero board edge first. And they're always going to move the shortest route they can to get to something fleshy to chomp down on. There are 3 different kinds of villainous behavior, I believe. So you check what they are, and then that will, depending on the type they are, it will tell you what their AI is going to be. They also have reactions that can be triggered by you doing stuff to them. Their actions are to advance, to hide, to raise the alarm, to reinforce, to slink away, to step forward, to be up to no good, or to villainously attack you. And again, what they do is going to be determined by the type of villain they are, which the types are aggressive, lurker, and pack hunter. When they target a hero, it's going to be a hero in range of the current action or within 6 if the attack or action has no range. Then it'll look for a hero within 3 inches of an objective, then a hero that has suffered the most wounds, and if none of those apply, you'll choose randomly between the heroes that match, or if a bunch of those apply. Sometimes they can target a threat marker, which follows pretty much the same steps on the first one. Threat marker that is out of line of sight of a hero, threat marker nearest the villainous edge, or choose randomly. To set up the episode, which is what this pulpy game calls your mission, you figure out your episode, your villains, your perils, your objectives, and then select your party. You set up your play area, set up your threat markers, set up any objectives, and then deploy your party, and then you start going. We've already talked about perils and that good stuff. Now, this can be played as a one-of, like in the beta version, or the thing that I'm most excited for is that it includes a way to connect your games. I did that anyways, but without rules. Like, nobody got any better, but I always used the same Division 0, which in my lore is a special unit from World War II era United States that was sent around to deal with paranormal activity around the country as well as around the world. And I have a lot more terrain than I did the first time I played this, so I'm excited to be able to do more different things with it, even though I'm going to be replaying some similar missions. There are 4 different ways of selecting or setting up the threat markers: standard, aggressive, corridor, and encircling. That's randomly determined with a D10 roll. This is new, I believe. I don't think I remember this from the original. This is party archetypes, which give you some bonuses based on which kind of party you're using, and that could be chosen or it could be randomized. May select or randomly generate. So for me, it would probably be the professionals, or maybe the monster hunters, because I think thematically those fit my Division 0 lore the best. Then we come into the brand new good, which is again the part that I'm most excited for. So this adds in, first of all, gaining experience, which you can gain XP up to your action points. So a regular teammate, their first game, they can gain 2. And you retain it until it's spent. It does not have to be spent right away. At the end of an episode, the following things can grant XP to your heroes. If you survived an episode where 3 or more threat markers were revealed, you get 1 XP. If you killed a monster, you gain 1 XP. If you scored 6 or more points, one teammate can be named the star of the episode and gain 1 XP. If the party scored 8 points or more, you get 1. And if the party scored 10 points or more, you get 1. Now, the downside to those XP gains and expenditures are that your team will become nefarious among the denizens of the dark. So each time a party member spends XP, your infamy goes up by that number. For each whole 10 points of infamy your party has, you increase the starting threat level by 1, and you increase the wound values of all masters by 2. So even while you are going to get stronger, the game is also going to become more difficult. The stat boosts that you can purchase are Tenacious for 2 XP, which will increase your wounds by 2 up to a total of 14. Professional for 2, which is to increase a skill stat that is 4 or less by 1. Expert, 3 XP, which will let you increase from 5 and up. And Seasoned for 4 XP, which will increase your action points by 1 to a maximum of 3. You can also spend XP on traits for new traits. The cost is equal to the number of traits you currently have. When you are buying traits with XP, you can have duplicate traits, but no hero can have more than 1 instance of the same trait. When you're originally building your party, everybody has to have unique traits, and there are a lot of them. We then come into the pre-made missions, which are going to be the Thing in the Ice, the Thing was a Sled Dog, the Watleys, the Scientists, the Ghast. Your normal kind of pulp horror things, Wolfman, Demon Butcher, all that jazz. And then we come into our objectives, which are kill the master, hunt the fiends, leave no stone unturned, which has to deal with checking threat markers, stopping the ritual, etc., etc. There are quite a few of these. So you're going to get some variety within your game, which is amazing. I believe that these are also determined by drawing from that suit of cards to see what you need to get or what you're looking for in that mission. And that brings us to the end. This PDF is, I want to say, like 15 to 20 bucks. Has an enormous amount of replayability, and as I've already mentioned, creates one of the best feelings of tension of any game that I've ever played in the horror genre or otherwise. You really feel that clock working against you, and it is fun. The only other game I think that has given me similar tension to this is not even a war game, it's a board game called Pandemic. It had a really good internal clock that worked against you to build that tension, but as far as war games go, I think this is the best for that. And a lot of variety, a lot of ability to use models you haven't used in a while, or to go out and buy some cool new models that would fit the game. That's going to do it for today. Thanks so much for tuning in, hanging out. Let me talk at you about one of my favorite games, Perilous Tales, from one of my favorite authors, Mike Hutchinson. I hope you have an absolutely amazing rest of your day.